This is a little presentation to help rally teams in the US who wants to go race in Canada. So there are a bunch of events depending on where you are located that might be actually much closer than US events. If you go to the Sneak Attack Rally website, you can enter your location and it will tell you the list of events, how many miles it takes to tow there, and the driving time based on Google Maps. So here at Frog Racing, we're located in Massachusetts, and the only two area events we have nearby are NEFR and STPR, and all the events in red here are actually all the Canadian events from the Eastern region. So you can find the National Championship CRC schedule at Cars Rally, and they have two regional championships, the Ontario Region Championship, which are those events here, and the Quebec Region events, which are on the right-hand side here. If you are on the East Coast, the big classic events are, of course, Personnage. If you want to do winter events, this is the winter event in Canada. You can run with steady tires. They don't provide notes, so you have to be writing your own notes. That's pretty common in Canada. Most events you have to write your own notes. So if you are new to the sport, make sure you have an experienced co-driver who can help you with writing the notes. But it's absolutely epic. It's cold, of course, but the roads are absolutely fantastic. Summer events, there's Baie Chaleur. It's very far up northeast in Canada, but it's a classic with lots of spectators. Really a great event. Later in the season, there's Rally Défi in Montpellier, Quebec. It's an event that would be similar to STPR. It even has a small stage in a quarry with a lot of spectators, a little bit similar to the West Manhattan stage at STPR. Rally Charlevoix, absolutely gorgeous landscapes, beautiful surroundings, great event over 2 days. Some sections are extremely rough, and so you have to be really playing the long game for this rally, but it's absolutely beautiful. Later in the season, there is Tall Pines in Ontario, and at that time of the season, you can get absolutely anything. It could be a gravel event, it could be mud, snow, ice. Being in Ontario, you are not allowed to use steady tires even if there is ice. So it can be a pretty tricky event. That's one of those most challenging rallies, probably with the changing conditions that you will see in Canada. To enter an event in Canada, if you already have an ARA or NASA license, you can just purchase an international permit to compete. There is just a form to fill, and you can pay a permit fee via PayPal. It's about 40 something US dollar for a regional entry, and it's closer to $60 for a national entry US. The Canadian dollar is relatively weak at the moment. If you don't have an ARA or NASA license, you have three options. You can get a Cars National license, which is 350 Canadian dollars, about 260 US. But you will also need to do a medical exam and also get first aid training, usually through the Red Cross, if you are not already trained for first aid. And your first aid training must be currently valid. It must not be expired. Other option is to get an ARA license. They don't accept a single event license. You need to take a full year membership, which is like 225 US plus tax, and then you will be able to purchase a permit to compete. NASA license works as well. So NASA, you need a membership, a license, medical, and also you will need to get a permit to compete. So Canadian events, you can choose to enter national or regional. Usually the regional events are shorter than the nationals. And so if an event is dual national regional, the regional portion usually skips the last loop, so the mileage will be shorter and the event will stop earlier for regional competitors. You have the option to do both national and regional at the same time. Some regions like the Quebec region, RSQ Champion 85, or cars that have sequential gearboxes, they are not eligible to enter regional. On the OPRC side, there are no limits. The costs are in average for a national rally is 1,300 Canadian, so about 970 US dollar. A regional is 900 Canadian, about 670. And if you are doing a dual entry, it's 1,400 Canadian, which is about 1,000 US. Note that you can also get contingency discounts on that later. So about the rules, we have actually a document that spells the rules and classes of all the sanctioning bodies on our website that you can check. But basically, cars are 4 classes: production and open, in 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive. When you go for scrutineering, if you have a US car, you can choose to be scrutineered under your current rules, whether ARA or NASA rules. And they have actually a table that tells you which class corresponds to which, but pretty much every ARA class puts you in open class, whether that's 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive. That's going to be the equivalent class with cars. If you want to run in production, you will have to be inspected under cars rules, and the main difference between cars and ARA or NASA rule is that cars expire seats. The seat must be FIA seats, and they must be less than 10 years old. The fire extinguishers must be held with 2 metal straps and have anti-torpedo tabs. If you have a hands device, it must be FIA certified. They don't accept SFI only certified head and neck restraint devices. They have to be FIA. If you have auxiliary lights, especially for night sevens, they must work with the high beam. So when you switch the high beams off, that must shut the auxiliary lights as well. And otherwise, the restrictor sizes are 34 millimeter for open and 32 millimeter for production, and there is no novice restrictor like in the US for turbo cars. Main question oftentimes is how hard is it to cross the border? Actually, it's pretty easy. You just need to have a passport, or some states you can even go to Canada with just an enhanced driver license. So the big thing is that you cannot have, if you had any DUI convictions, they will not let you enter Canada. And so that's very important for your crew as well. If you are taking crew members with you, if any of them had a DUI conviction, they will not be allowed to cross the border. The only paperwork you really bring are the registration and insurance papers for your tow vehicle, trailer, and race car, and that's pretty much it. When you are going to come to the border, they are going to ask you where you are going. You say that you are going to a car race in that particular town. Don't say you are going to a rally. A rally for them is a protest, and I think you are going to protest something. So you are just going to a car race. They're going to ask you when you are coming back. They tell them the race is on Saturday, I'm coming back on Sunday, or whatever. They are going to ask you if you bring firearms, tobacco, alcohol, or cash over $10,000. If you are doing any of those things, check what the rules are to make sure you don't get into trouble. They are going to ask you if you leave anything in the country. So usually we just take our gear and back. The only thing we leave over there is a little bit of rubber. If you are importing stuff, you will have to check the import regulations. When your crew members are crossing the border, they are not going to crew because crew means working and they will need a work visa. They are just going to spectate the race. If you are hiring people and paying them, then you will have to figure out what the proper way of doing work visas is. But otherwise, if you just have friends coming over to help you out, they just say that they come to spectate the race. That simplifies the process. Usually it takes less than 5 minutes to cross the Canadian border. You will spend way more time coming back to the US. They will ask you way more questions, but we never had a problem crossing the border in either direction. So contingency program, cars has a really great contingency program with Subaru. So if you have any Subaru when you are entering, you will get $250 Canadian if you just start the rally. So that's kind of the entry discount the first 10 have in the US, but here it's for absolutely everybody. And they have extra contingency if you finish in the top 6 overall, or just even the top 6 Subarus. So top 6 Subarus, sometimes there are non-Subaru cars in the top 6. So if the first 3 are like Fords or other brands, and you finish 4th, you will actually be first Subaru, and you will get $1,000 for that. So first to 6 Subaru get between $1,000 and $500 for 6 Subaru, and you finish in the top 6 overall, you get extra money. So from $2,500 for first overall to $1,000 for 6 overall. So if you finish 6 overall and you were the 5th fastest Subaru, because there was a non-Subaru in the top 6, you will get $1,000 for top 6 overall, and you will get $600 for top 5 Subaru. So that can be a really good payout to pay some of the expenses of the event, like the entry fee. OPRC, which is the Ontario Regional, has also, at least last year in 2023, two-wheel drive and overall. And they also have a special purse for the Black Bear Rally, which is a regional only, to try to attract people to get to that rally. So why riding in Canada for US competitors? Actually, depending on where you are located, you will see that a lot of events are the events are a lot closer together than most US events. And if you want to do a regional championship, you will see that most of the events are going to be at an equal distance from where you are. The events are cheaper when you convert to US dollars, and so you can actually add an extra event compared to the budget you would need to run in the US in your season. There are no crew license fees. They have real production classes, so you can really run in production if you are a car that is close to production. They usually have less entries, which might not be entertaining for some, but if you don't have a top level car, you have very good chances to do well, and they have good TV coverage as well. So you could get way more coverage than you would do in the US. They use Rally Safe too now, so it's really the same experience of rallying that you would get in the US. They are very friendly and organized for all the events we have attended. So again, if you have a Subaru, they already have a great contingency program. And if you are in Canada, you have Poutine, and if you are worried about events in Quebec, they do speak English even at the events in Quebec, so they do everything in both languages, so it's not an issue. Language is not going to be a barrier for anyone. So really encourage everybody to look into this and consider coming compete in Canada. It's a very great way